Welcome to Zooming to Webinar Success. If you're needing to plan a virtual meeting and are stuck, this series is for you. Full-time voice artist Grant Holmes is also a busy virtual meeting manager and on-screen host. Learn tips and tricks to having successful virtual meetings from step one. And now, here's your host, Grant Holmes, the webinar guy.
Hey gang, it's episode 20. This is Grant. My clients call me the webinar guy. And this webinar is for you. If you're trying to get a webinar going and all that kind of stuff, it's Webinar Wednesday, or at least it was. You know, for the last few episodes, I've been covering many things you need to consider as you think about doing a webinar. Mainly your recording equipment in the last few episodes, specifically webcams, lighting, and the set or space you record in. So what's next? Well, I've said here before that maybe other than the decision to hold a webinar, there are many decisions that need to be made, and for many, the order really doesn't matter because you're going to have to do them all sooner or later. And since this is episode 20, I wanted to do a quick recap of where we've been. So if you've been following along and have heard all the previous episodes, you can skip probably ahead to around the 3-minute mark or so. But if you're here, if you're new, here's a recap of what you've missed. Episode 1 was an intro to the series and getting going and what we were going to do. Episode 2, the real basics to consider as a CRM or a customer relation management tool as you build your webinar kingdom. Episode 3 was more on audience management and the considerations that you use when you use a CRM for audience tracking and so on. Episode 4 was finding the purpose of your webinar, not necessarily the actual subject, but what is it you want people to do once they've attended. In 5, we talked about the strategy on overall what you're trying to accomplish, strategically setting up your webinar series, or virtual summits for success. What about considering the frequency and cadence of your webinars? That was episode 6. And in 7, I talked about taking your list of followers and strategy on getting them to the webinar. Episode 8 was if you have fewer signups than you'd like and you thought about canceling your event, what do you do then? Episode 9 was about sales funnels. That was the first part of that. Episode 10, I interviewed special guest Deborah Gardner. And if you missed that one, she's a special lady and worth listening to. Episode 11, we looked more at sales funnel. And then I talked about standing in your confidence, about the attitude you should have when you give a webinar. That was episode 12. Episode 13 was more on marketing and promotion. Episode 14, even more on marketing and promotion. A lot of stuff on marketing, promotion, sales funnels, and all that. Must be a key ingredient. I also talked about the lack of preparation. Episode 15 was about planning and the webinar guide checklist. We did a first bit on equipment with cameras. Episode 16 was sound and the environment that you record in. Episode 17, set design. I use a green screen, but maybe you're using your living room, den, or office. It all works, but I talk about that. Episode 18 was lighting your set, especially if you wear glasses and you're trying to eliminate glare. And episode 19, how you'll present, such as like I'm on the screen right now, solo. Are you going to have a slide deck to the side or whatever? And I talked about those things. Well, today in episode 20, and that's the recap, by the way, today I'm going to talk about another consideration for webinars. Using PowerPoint, Prezio, or other type of slide deck to back up your presentation. But first, a word from our sponsor, which is me by that point. If you need help in creating a great presentation or training on how to use a slide deck during a webinar, training on slide deck creation, or need a deck created for you, or just coaching on live stagecraft, please hit thewebinarguy.com and use our contact page. We can help you. And thanks for allowing me that short commercial. This is going to be a 2-part episode, by the way, to stay in a shorter format. So part 1 is your first consideration in choosing the software you'll use to create your slides. And there are many. Do a Google search and I think you'll find more than 15. But Prezi, Google Slides, Canva, Keynote, Microsoft PowerPoint, are all choices, and of course, PowerPoint's probably the 900-pound gorilla in the room. You know, it matters not what you use. I really couldn't care less. But rule number one is remembering that a presentation is only ever there to support the speaker, not to be the presentation. Do I need to say that again? Hopefully not. Rule number two is that you should be on screen with your presentation. Many folks use a small feature window off to the side, and we can help set that up for you also. But switching to only slides takes the you. It takes the personal touch out of the webinar. Trust me, unless there's a really good reason or it's only going to be short so you can show a video or something really important, stay on the screen. Rule 3, using cute animations, GIF images, and such. Use them to a minimum. Rule 4, limit the number of animations, GIF images, and such. Hopefully you get the point being made. So often we get a slide deck to evaluate or to recreate a slide deck for a client or fix it, and you can tell the professional level of whoever created it. They've tried, or so it seems, to use every single animation tool available. This thing zooms in, that one wipes up or down, and sometimes both, then a pinwheel and more. Folks, this is not a circus. It is not the county fair. That's not professional. A bit of tough love. If you as a presenter need a cute slide deck to support you, you need presentation coaching or training, and I'd love to help you with that. But if you can't pass the cute stuff test, go back over your presentation. You're going to lose your audience. In that same vein, many presentations love to use those GIF animations that I talked about. I'd love to say don't, but there are some decent ones out there that make a point. But at least find ones that animate for a moment and stop. 1 or 2 rotations. You don't need a little kid on the screen doing this for your entire next 3 minutes because it's distracting. When you use motion on the screen, it draws the eye. So that GIF is one that's going to be repeat and repeat and repeat forever. Learn how to take it back off the screen, have it exit, disappear. It's really distraction, and it's really unprofessional. Enough on that? Well, I hope so. This subject on webinar slide decks is going to be 2 parts to keep the content to where I want it to be time-wise. So I'm going to wrap it up here. To hit the next episode, 21, for the wrap-up on this topic. This series is for smaller organizations and solopreneurs that may not be tech savvy, don't know all the steps, or don't want to know all the steps. We're helping you out here. And over the series, I'm going to lead you through the significant decisions and capabilities you'll need to Zoom to webinar success. And as always, if you need help now, don't hesitate to reach out to Webinar Pro at thewebinarguide.com. Thanks for watching. Would love to hear your questions and comments. And if you're listening to the podcast audio, thanks for listening. Tell a friend.